First of all, if I give you a little bit of an outline about me, you'll know why I'm here, how I got to be here. I had spinal surgery in 2004 and things went pretty well for about 7.5 weeks until they didn't. And I ended up with what I now know is neuropathic pain, but at the time it stung, it burnt, and it was from my neck to my knees, and sometimes it went further, and it hurt a lot. And when I couldn't take it anymore, my GP had me readmitted to hospital, and I spent a week in hospital under a pain specialist. Then I spent a month in a rehab hospital, and that was really good. They got me moving, but they didn't do a lot for the pain. I couldn't take opioids, thank goodness, or I'd probably be on a lot by now. But they gave me everything else they could give me, I think. And just to show how sensitised I was, when we did our hydrotherapy, I used to be in horrific pain all afternoon, and they couldn't figure out what it was about. And then they reckoned that it was the waves the other people were making, and it was stirring all my nerves up. So I had to go in the pool on my own, and I just floated around down the end on a noodle. Oh, it was bliss.
Isn't it? It's the best
bliss.
thing in the world.
It was the best thing. Anyway, I was told, I'd asked the doctor before I left, well, you know, how long will this last for? And he said, I think we're in it for the long term. Now, my stupid brain, for some reason, decided that would meant 3 months. I don't know where I plucked that magic figure from. Naturally, it didn't happen. And so I was very, very upset, very disappointed. Funnily enough, in 2005, I coordinated a diabetes project for my husband's Rotary Club right throughout the Adelaide Hills. And I coped better that year, and I think it was the distraction. Then in 2006, I hadn't been able to go to work, back to work, and I was the only person. We'd moved house before the surgery. I knew no one sort of there, and, well, I did know them, but not well enough to sort of go and knock on their door and say, I really need someone to talk to, that sort of thing. So I had nobody that I could call. My husband was at work, all my friends were at work, so I hit rock bottom that year. And I think that I was probably depressed. I didn't get diagnosed with depression, but I reckon I was depressed. But then 2007 came along and all these things happened, these really, really great things. First of all, one of my doctors who had been trying to find out what was wrong with me all along, and I'll be forever grateful for him because he didn't get to the bottom of it, but he ruled out a lot of nasties, which was a big relief for me. And he said, how would you like to see a pain psychologist? And I said, well, that's okay with me, but why? And he said, because you're scared. And I thought, oh yeah, I am. I was petrified they were going to say, we're going to have to do another great big operation on your spine and do this and do that, and I didn't want that. So I saw this lady, and she was amazing. She taught me to relax. She taught me self-hypnosis. So when I used to get up in the morning, the pain would be reasonable, and then during the day it would just go like that. And by the evening I was in agony, and I didn't sleep well as a result of all that. But when I started doing the self-hypnosis a couple of times a day, I noticed it was going like this more, so my evenings were better. She also encouraged me to apply for this postgrad uni course that I was telling all her about, chronic condition management, because I'd been too gutless to apply. I knew I needed distraction, but I was too gutless to sort of say, oh, I want to go there. Anyway, look, that kept me busy and that kept me distracted for a good couple of years. And then I also did the course that Orla's mum has done, the 6-week chronic condition management course that's run by peers and led by peers. And I just learnt so much about how to manage my life and how to manage my pain. And those 3 things got me sort of on the right track. I trained to run the courses, I led the courses for years here and overseas online, and I've been on SA Health committees and you name it, I think I've done it, and it's been fantastic. And I sometimes look back and I think, gee, I'm not sure I want to change that now, because it's taken me down some amazing pathways. I've met some amazing people along the way, and I think, well, maybe it was meant to be, or some funny thing, I don't know. So, having said that, what I'm going to do first is play this 5-minute video, which has been put together by Professor Lorimer Mosley. I don't know if anyone's heard of him. He comes from UniSA. He's one of the leading pain neuroscience researchers in the world. He did end up at Oxford and they wanted to keep him, but he came back here and we're very, very lucky. And I only found this out yesterday when I saw him do that talk. I sent you the link for Shona. He said that when he gave all the information to the people that were going to make this animated thing, it's used as a beast, as a metaphor. And when he gave it to them, he didn't realise they were going to put him in it and make him the narrator. And his kids said, "Dad, you haven't got a neck." So it's quite good, and it only goes 5 minutes, but it gives you a good explanation of why pain persists. That's probably the most played consumer/patient, we only call them consumers in Australia, video in the world, I would think. Any list of resources you can find will have that on it, probably fairly close to the top or somewhere like that. Did you find that interesting? It's good, isn't it? There's another one too that I could have played, but I never thought would make such an impression, but it's called Elliot Crane, The Mystery of Chronic Pain, and it's easy to find on YouTube, and he is a pain specialist. I think he's paediatric, and he uses a Bunsen burner and all sorts of things to explain why and how pain is. And when we played that, some people who have complex regional pain syndrome, one lady said, who's even had an arm amputated, she said, in 14 years, that's the best explanation I've seen. And I thought, I should use that more often, I think. So there are various strategies that we can use to manage pain in any condition. We'll just touch on a few of them today. And they might sound very easy, but managing pain is actually hard. But once you get into the swing of it, it becomes habit, like a lot of other things. And then it just becomes the way you do things, and it's a lot easier. But it's hard sort of in the beginning for a couple of reasons. The first one, and the one that I think underpins everything, we call them action plans. It's basically something that you want to do. It can be anything at all. It's something you want to do in the next week. We use a month, I know, at the group, but basically it's better if it's set for a week. Something that, given a normal set of circumstances, you can do. It's something that you want to do, not that someone else wants you to do, and preferably not something you think you should do, although sometimes we can use it for that if we're procrastinators like me. And you use something like, for example, not a long-term thing, like next week I'm going to get fit, next week I'm going to eat healthily. Well, that's a long-term goal. So next week then you would have to plan exactly what you're going to do to get kick-started on that. I'm going to make 2 nice healthy salads for dinner 2 nights next week. That kind of easy thing that you can manage without having to go out of your way and think, oh, this is all too hard. So it's baby steps, and you do it very slowly. So then you need to decide when you're going to do it. Now, it's better to pick 3 or 4 days a week, or even 1 or 2. Because if you pick 7, it doesn't allow you any wiggle room, and things always crop up in life, as you know, and you haven't got anywhere to go. So you get to the end of the 7 days and you think, oh, you think you've failed. Now you haven't, obviously, but you feel that you've failed. So it's best to set something that's really, really achievable, and then if you do more, that's great, that's fine, as long as you don't boom and bust and do too much. And then the other thing you need is a confidence level, which sounds a bit bland, but it works. There's a lot of evidence for that too. You need a confidence level of 7 out of 10, and you're more likely to achieve what it is you've set out. So if you can't get 7, you start to think, well, what can I cut back? Have I allowed too much time, too many days? Somewhere you can cut it back so that you can feel comfortable with it. And that way you will feel more confident. And then what happens is, in somewhere between 4 and 8 weeks, look back at what you've set and what you've done, and then you can sort of start to think, I've actually achieved something here. I've really done something, something I thought I wouldn't be able to do. One year I used these, and I hadn't cleaned since we'd moved. I hadn't cleaned all the cupboards out and everything, and had a really good go. And I set this really simple task for each week, about 3 days I think on each week, and I actually did the whole house. And I don't think I've ever felt so happy at Christmas, because I just sort of wasn't worried about anything, you know, because the house was done and everything else was done. So what if? What if something comes up, you're unwell, or you've chosen to do something outside, like plant some herbs or something really exotic, and it's raining? Well, good news is that they're very flexible. Action plans are flexible as. You can adjust as you go, like I said before. You adjust your days as you go. This can be done during the week, as long as you sort of stick to doing something. Or if you really get stuck and you become ill, or you can use self-care then, or if something really crops up, you can change the entire plan to something like, okay, on Tuesday I'm going to go out with my friend for a cup of coffee, and leave it at that. You've still made a plan and you've done it. That's what it's all about. It's actually making a plan and doing something. And it sounds a bit bland, but trust me, it works. There's another thing that will help you to achieve those plans, and it's pacing. You may have heard of this. I once had a doctor, a pain specialist, who used to see me out the door, and he used to say, pacing, 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 shake my hand, and off I'd go. Doctors are not big on that, so it was really quite good. So where do you start to do this thing called pacing? Well, you start low and you go slow. So you find a baseline. Now say for example it's studying, and you get carried away and you do so much that you're fatigued for the next 2 days. Or it's something physical, some exercising you're going to do, or walking, or whatever it might be. Have you got wheelchair exercises you do?
Not in the wheelchair, but there are some to strengthen getting in and out of it.
Okay, yeah, okay. I was wondering if you had sort of upper body exercises or anything, or full body or anything like that. Well, you can overdo. The thing is, whatever it is you want to do, is to find your baseline. At the point which if you've got pain, and you've always got this sort of level of pain, so you don't want to stir that up. So you find the point at which you can stir it up. So say for example you're going to walk for 10 minutes. That's all you can walk before you stir it up. So you go for 5. If you find, I don't know, how long do you sit and go to the study for?
Well, lectures are 50 minutes.
Yeah, but what about when you're doing your own study at home or in library?
Like about 50 minutes before
Yeah.
I need to stand up.
Okay, so therefore you know what that level is. So if you find whatever level it is that is difficult, you halve that and you start there, and each week you build up really slowly, and then you can go as far as you like, as long as you're comfortable and you're not booming and busting. You'll probably have a few hiccups along the way, but that's okay. That's fine. And the other thing that'll help with all of that is to actually plan your day. All you do is you make a list, and at the top of that list you put whatever is so urgent that it has to be done that next day, and you leave that there. You may still have to adjust, but it's a good thing too. It takes a lot of stress away, because when you go to bed you know that that's there, and that does stop that sort of mind churning thing that can happen if you don't go straight to sleep. So as you work through, remember to bring the pacing back in so that you're not booming and busting. And that was my classic thing, was booming, and I was the queen of booming and busting. When I first developed this condition, I would have a day periodically, about once every 7 to 10 days, where I had no pain. That's just the idiosyncrasies of neuropathic pain, I guess. I would have no. Now, the first time it happened, I thought it had gone. Oh, I was over the moon until the next day when it wasn't. So, yeah, I would go like a bat out of hell. I would do all the cleaning, I'd do 3 loads of washing, I'd do everything. And as you can imagine, the next 4 days were hell. So I thought, oh, I've got this. Next time I get one of those days, I'm going to sit down and do nothing all day. No, that didn't work either. And gradually over the years I stopped having them, but I almost had one earlier this year. It was quite amazing. I was really a bit careful. Now, if you've got a lot of lectures, shopping, appointments, those kind of things that I think are a bit draining, try not to make anything else for that day, and just, I mean, I know that life exists, and sometimes you might have something you have to do as well as shopping or appointments, but try and plan for those kind of things. And if you've got a lecture or two, that's all for the day, because otherwise you can sort of become overtired. And give yourself some me time, even if it's half an hour. Read a book, go in the bath like that lady, sit outside, go for a coffee, make a coffee. Just anything you enjoy doing for half an hour. You can make it longer if you've got enough time. And maybe on a weekend have a bit longer somewhere, because we all need that time to ourselves, and we're all guilty of thinking, yes, I'll just do that after I've done such and such, and after I've done that, then all of a sudden it's bedtime and nothing's happened. So relaxation and distraction are other things we can use to help pain and anything else. Life in general, I think, if you're stressed. Distraction, I think, has always been my go-to. That's why I wanted to study. And then in the years that have gone by since, I've done another couple of short courses and really enjoyed those. So that's always been and also distraction doesn't necessarily mean anything like that. I've got a little mini iPad because it's really light, and I watch movies on it, or I read a book on it. I've got books galore on it, and I've got movies, and you can always stream something at home, and I use it for that, and that's my distraction. I actually do that in bed. And all the people, the sleep experts, say that's a really bad thing to do, but because it focuses my mind on one thing, it just puts me to sleep. I often fall asleep on it and miss to wake up and get rid of it. No? So the role of stress, now this is a really big thing. Were you aware that stress makes pain worse?
I am.
You? I wasn't. I was in total denial. I thought, what a load of rubbish. I thought I'd get stressed, I don't get any worse pain. I think it was because I was probably stressed the whole time in those days. And it does. There's a lot of solid evidence out there to say that stress makes pain worse. And of course, eventually I had to admit, yes, it does. It makes my pain worse. I know it does. So any change in your emotional state, any of that stuff, will contribute to stress. It's not an if, it's a will. And there is a quote from Professor Lorimer Moseley to say just that. It lives in the brain, and therefore the experience of people with chronic pain often is the pain increases as they become more stressed. I nearly pulled everything off the car. So if we can somehow manage some of that stress, then it helps. So there's a few ways. There's relaxation. I don't know whether anyone here is aware of any relaxation techniques. Are you, Shona?
I feel like we're all overworkers.
Hey?
We're all boom bust people.
I can tell you that most people with chronic pain are overachievers. Yeah. Now, it's a good thing, but obviously it's something that has to be reined in if you want to get on top of pain. It's unfortunate. I know that I do it too. I'll sit there and I'll work for hours and hours on end, and yes. Say no more. Has anyone tried mindfulness?
Yeah.
Do you find it any good?
It's sort of hard to learn, like you really got to practice it, and I find that hard. You can't just pick it up out of
I know, and I'm guilty of not practicing it enough. You know how they say, it's all right if your mind wanders, that's fine, just bring it back to the present moment. Mine just keeps wandering, and I'm not really good at it. But I can do the self-hypnosis. I've still got all the recordings from the same guy, and I've actually got some more now that he brought out. And so if I'm really in a mess, I'll go back to those recordings, because I don't wander very much with that for some reason. I don't know why, that's just me. Everyone's different, everyone's pain's different, and everyone will manage it differently because we're all different after all. But some of these strategies are really good. There's a lot more too. And of course there's the distraction we've been talking about. What about breathing exercises? Anyone tried any of those? Yeah. There again, it's what suits you. I've done several over the years when I've been in training or whatever, and they've said that we're going to do this, and I feel as though I need to take more breath, or I'm not taking enough, or I just need to stop and breathe. But this one I found a couple of years ago is so basic. It's on an app called Smiling Mind, and you just breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 2, breathe out for 4 seconds, hold for 2. And it really actually works quite well. But you need to be doing, I'm trying to bash the microphone. You need to have this bit of coming out, like, not this bit up here because it's too shallow. And if you can do several of those and then breathe out slowly, I sometimes breathe out for 6, depending on how I feel at the time. You're changing yourself from your sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight response. you're changing yourself, and you can do it quite quickly, back into your parasympathetic nervous system, which is more calming, and it actually works, and it works quite quickly, doesn't it, Shona? Especially if you can. And some people say you can take a deep breath in and then go, and just sort of breathe out really quickly, like a really big huff out. I can't do it and talk at the same time. But that works as well. Do a few of those and then get into the slower things perhaps. And of course, getting outside, I think now that the weather's getting a bit better, sometimes just sitting outside and having a cup of coffee makes you feel a bit better. I did it the other day actually. I thought, I must do this more often instead of just making coffee and sitting there and working while I'm having it. Just go outside and take 5 minutes.
Can I say something?
Yep.
With getting outside, it's one thing that I realised when we had our first lockdown last year, and I can't believe this had just never occurred to me in my 22 years of life at the time, was that I can go outside and I can sit outside. I don't have to go outside and like, do stuff.
And you and me both.
And I had like, this was at my mum's place, we had a lovely outdoor area, and it just had never occurred to me, so that actually was so useful, just sitting outside, something about the sun, and yeah.
It's calming, isn't it? Yeah.
To just go be.
Well, I'm just
outside.
sitting inside, so
Yeah.
so I can just sit outside.
I swear that I did the same thing, and so did my husband. I swear we still sat inside most of the time, not even thinking. But next time, if we have another lockdown and it's in good weather, it's going to be in my head to get outside. So we need to have, and this is really important, a setback plan, because we will have setbacks. We do have setbacks, they happen. If you're managing really well, they're usually not that bad. They don't take you back to, well, in my case, they've never taken me quite back to 2006. So first thing to remember is it's just a setback, it's not a start over. You're not going back to rock bottom and starting afresh. So once you get that sort of organised, it makes it managing it better. So first of all, check that list you've got. Get rid of absolutely everything that you don't need to do that day. That will keep for another day. There's no, and put it on another day perhaps. It doesn't have to stay there, it can be adjusted. Pace carefully anything you do have to do, because there are times you're having a setback, you just have to do something. I've had to go and run a group. And quite often, funnily enough, because of the environment there and the peer support and just general getting together type of thing, I often feel better at the end of that. Very fatigued, but perhaps not as much pain. Have a PJ day if you're home, and you can. PJ days are quite good. I hadn't had one for donkey's years until Sunday, and I think I had it because I wasn't well, and it wasn't my pain, it was something else. I must have had this in mind that I'd put this here. And I had a PJ day because I've got one of those Oodie things. Has anyone got an Oodie? Oh my God, they are the warmest, beautifulest thing. And so I stayed in that. What are you laughing at?
My sister's obsessed with them.
I know.
It's a cult of Woody.
They are wonderful. I've got a granddaughter who sleeps in hers. I get the hood gets in the way. Yeah, but I just stayed in that, and I think if you've got PJs on, you're more inclined to relax. So yes, have a PJ day if you can. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. And stay in bed all day only if you really have to. I mean, if you get migraines or you become really ill, if you have a flare, then obviously a day in bed is fine. But otherwise, try and get up and do whatever. But don't sit all day. I find that on those days it's really easy to get yourself comfortable, and you don't want to move, but you have to move. Every sort of 40, 45 minutes you should get up and move around and do something. A few stretches, anything that you normally do. And meals is another thing. Now, if I make Indian, I make it in a slow cooker and I make 3 in there at once, and we eat 1 and I freeze 2. So there's always something in the freezer for a bad day. And it's really good because it also de-stresses you because you know there's a meal there. You don't have to go hunting out for takeaway. You can get Uber Eats, I know, very easily, but you don't have to get that. You've got food there that you might like more, and you can just get that out and make a bit of rice or something to go, or pasta, whatever you've got in the freezer. Anything that'll freeze, have some in reserve. And remember that this too shall pass, because it will, as long as you've got your plan and you stick to it. And having that plan removes stress straight away. And of course, removing stress is going to help you to relax. And the last thing is our small victories, which Shona will be familiar with, and Orla. Small victories can be absolutely anything at all. We pinched this from Pain BC in Canada, and we have found it so successful in the groups. People really seem to enjoy it. It's an optional thing. No one has to share if they don't want to, and it can be something that you've either achieved. Some people just say they've got their action plan done. Or it might be something you did. You might have gone out with someone for a meal or a coffee, or got together with some friends. Someone might have said something nice. You might have got a really great mark on an assignment. You might have finished an assignment at last that was driving you up the wall. Anything at all. And I think it's a good idea to actually write those down along with your action plans, because then when you get back to that 6-8 week mark and you start looking at it, you'll see all these nice things. I read a thing that was written by somebody that anytime, if you do get clinical, anytime anyone says anything nice to you, that write it down and keep it in a little book or on your phone or somewhere in a file. And when you're having a bad time, just read through it. And you sort of got this sort of positive affirmation from people.
That's such a good idea to write it down, though, because like I've had people suggest that you make your own affirmation book, but it's coming from yourself. So when you're in a bad place, you don't believe it. So if it's from someone else, that's it. Yeah, I saw that somewhere. It was only a few months ago, and I thought, oh, how brilliant is that? It's such a good idea for people starting out in any sort of career where you're going to be seeing people like that. Anyway, that is enough from me, I think. That's my contact details. If anyone wants to contact me anytime about anything, feel free to do so. And if you've got any questions, I'm only too happy to have a chat about them.